Riverside Farm is an idyllic location. It's right on the Kafui River. There's bananas growing here. It is an oasis, but all around, surrounding Riverside Farm is abject poverty. You go to these villages and you see people gather around a water pump to get water, to be able to carry for miles sometimes so that they can simply have water to drink. You recognize that there's food scarcity, just extreme poverty surrounding all around Riverside, but there's a commitment here to make a difference, to transform these communities, and much of that is done through education. And that's why the schools being located here on this campus, in this oasis, are so important to the surrounding community. The challenge is gaining access to the amazing education that is available at Riverside, because only the students that are within walking distance could actually attend here. And so as we began to assess this challenge, we recognized the importance of being able to provide transportation for children to be able to attend school here.
So we partner with Child Impact on the school bus. It sits 38 people, and it's really great because we have a community that's about 30 minutes away, where children are still walking more than 2 hours to come to get on the bus and get here. If they were to do that without a bus, it just would be out of reach for them completely. It's a community that's very underserved for education. Many of the kids having really no educational opportunity at all.
As I visited the surrounding villages around Riverside Farm, it's very clear that walking from those locations is not a possibility, and yet it's only a 15-minute bus ride. Trying to walk, the distance, the heat, the busy roads, the vulnerabilities that children have, all of these things make it impossible for them to have that as an option. But when we can pick them up at a bus stop, and they can, I rode a bus going to school, and so when we have that option available for them, all of a sudden the possibilities open up in terms of children that have access to this school.
Yeah, so most of the kids that we deal with coming from the community with the bus would either be ending their life out cutting charcoal in the bush, which is really an amazing thing because you're actually doing more work than the calories they can afford to buy. It's just a way to extend life, to live a little longer, but really not a way of sustaining themselves. So they'd either be doing that, or they would be trying to find other ways to raise money, whether that's trafficking or some other way. So because there's just really no opportunity. The only other thing that they are able to do is sell stolen coal from the community, and so it's an interesting opportunity to help.
What would happen if there was no bus? If this opportunity for transportation was not available for these students? It is very clear that in these villages and communities surrounding Riverside Farm, that generational poverty exists, which means my parents are poor, my grandparents are poor, my grandparents are poor, my kids are going to be poor, I'm going to be poor. Well, there's nothing wrong with being poor, except that there are different challenges that come along with that. There's food insecurity, there's often diseases that are curable, preventable diseases. There's also abuse that happens for these children. And so by providing education, you provide a safety for these children and an opportunity for these children that would not otherwise be available to them, and you're able to break that cycle of generational poverty. And so we did a couple of things. One is we purchased a bus. Our donors through Child Impact enabled that to be possible. And we also expanded the primary school so that more students could attend. So now access has been opened up to these surrounding communities, to this amazing education and this environment right here at Riverside Farm. The core of Child Impact is really sponsorship. Sponsorship is a monthly donation to help a child be able to have an education. That involves their education fees, their books, uniform, some basic medical care, and also a meal if it's a day student, or all 3 meals and boarding if it's a boarding student. The cost to provide this is $32 a month for a day student and $45 a month for a boarding student. And I have to really ask myself, does such a small amount make such a big difference? Does $1.06 a day for a day student make that big of a difference? And it really does. As I've been able to meet the 3 children that our family sponsors, I recognize that the whole direction of their life has been transformed simply through sponsorship. Something that's happening in half a world away, that is a very small sacrifice for our family, is making a world of difference for them and the opportunities that they have for their future. One of the unique experiences that I had on this visit to Riverside Farm was the opportunity to travel in a 4-wheel drive vehicle for a couple hours on a very bumpy ride, and then get into a boat and travel at a very slow speed through a canal, through marshland, to get to an island off of a river. I've never had such an experience before. But we quickly learned that there is zero access to education for the children from this community. That this community is very isolated from the outside world. And as you reflect on that, you can say, well, maybe that's nice, because we know there's so many challenges in the world that we live in. But the reality for them is that the children become so vulnerable to many different things in their lives that are prevented and can be counteracted through education. My wife and I had the privilege of visiting this village, this isolated village, with our sons. Daniel is 15 and Andre is 17. And I just kept thinking about how is this affecting them? I've seen this before, but they haven't. And just to see them reflect on that experience and recognize how many opportunities they have compared to the opportunities that these kids have. And then to begin to question, what should I be doing about this? Do I have any obligation to respond to what I just saw? I want that answer to be yes. I want this to develop in them a passion to do all they can to make a difference in this world.
I expected to see poverty, I expected to see needs, I expected to see orphans, but it was a very impactful thing to be in the bus or in the car and see all the kids in the street, the side of the streets, selling things. And what if it was my child? You know, every kid that I see asking or walking around, what if it was my child? What would I want people to do for them? It's hard. I feel helpless because I don't have the funds that I wish I had to just fix everything. And I know God has the whole picture. But sometimes it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. I wish I had the gift of words to convey to people that are able to help. All these kids need is education so they can learn to get out of this poverty.
I really see sponsorship as a entry-level commitment, kind of a minimum threshold that I think every person should consider doing. At $1.06 a day for a child to be able to go to school, to be able to have a meal, this is a minor commitment for most American families or Canadian families or any first world family. That's a minimum kind of commitment that I think any individual should consider. And there's some individuals who say, I can sponsor more than one child, 2 or 5 or 10 or even 30. And if that's a possibility, from my experience of seeing this firsthand and the difference it makes in the life of a child, I want to encourage everybody who's watching this video to consider such a commitment as a minimum way to be involved. We recognize that with so many children needing access to education, that there was an opportunity here to expand the primary school. By adding 5 buildings to the primary school, that's grades 1 through 6, we were able to double the capacity for the number of students who can attend, from 360 students to 720 students. Every child that is able to attend here represents a potential transformation for the community that they've come from, because now they were going to be able to not only go to primary school here, but also to go to secondary school to learn skills that are taught here on Riverside campus that will be able to help transform their families and their villages. The reality is that every child has a dream for their life. The sad thing is, without education, most of those dreams are not possible. The encouraging thing is, by being sponsored and attending one of the schools supported through Child Impact and through our donors, they do have a real chance of meeting that dream. Now we have one school where there's a girl and a boy who both want to be president of the country someday. I'm not sure both of them will achieve that dream, but maybe they will. And I love that they see a limitless possibility in front of them as a result of the education that's being provided. Greetings, friends. I would like to invite you to become a sponsor through Child Impact International. My family personally sponsors 3 children, and I can tell you it is a great joy to know the difference that this is making in their lives. Perhaps you're already a sponsor and you've been inspired to do more. We want to encourage you to grow your family. Perhaps you can sponsor 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 students to be able to have an Adventist education. We know that this education will help them break the cycle of poverty that has persisted for generations. I want to encourage you to go to childimpact.org and select sponsorship. Then you can select which country, and if you'd like to sponsor a girl or a boy, and how many students you'd like to sponsor. May God bless you for taking this step. Childimpact.org, or call our office at 423-910-0667.